Should new dads get 6 weeks paternity leave? 0207 862 2222. A new report is calling on the government to give dads more paid time off during their baby's first year. It's thought it would encourage them to be more involved and to help share the care burden, which typically falls on mums. At the moment, new fathers get up to 2 weeks off, and that doesn't change if you have twins, triplets, whatever. They may also be entitled to shared parental leave, where you can share up to 50 weeks of leave, but you have to meet certain eligibility criteria. The report suggests that giving fathers more time off would actually boost productivity by improving employee well-being. The government has actually just confirmed that they are going to look into the amount of time off all new parents get. So this could happen. Let's stick on the idea of the 6 weeks for dads. Is it a good idea, Marina?
I like this idea. Now, I appreciate that some businesses will be able to accommodate this easier than others, but I think where it is possible, it makes the world of difference. Because let's be honest, what is 2 weeks? 2 weeks is not enough to even master how to, work out a folding pram and to go down to the shops and buy nipple shields and cabbages, as my husband had to do for me. So I think that 6 weeks, my husband took off a few months, and I can't tell you how positive that was as an experience for us, because what happens when dads don't have the parental leave is that women end up inevitably getting shortchanged, and that whole load, whether it's the mental load, the physical load, logistical, whatever, it all just falls on the mum, and that sort of just seeps into the rest of their life, where it's always the mum that knows how to do this, that and the other. Whereas for me, we had this joint experience, it's, you can try and swap the sleep schedule, so sometimes one of you gets some sleep, but also there's the bonding element, and there is the just understanding what it means to be a parent and seeing it for a duration longer than 2 weeks. And look, the societal benefit is so much better, because at the moment, these women that go through it on their own, in the blink of an eye, their husband's back at work and they're there possibly with a C-section or recovering or whatever else. And then we're like, oh, why aren't these women bouncing back to work? Or why are there mental health problems with new mothers? Well, let's have the couple at home bonding with their baby, as it should be for a lot longer.
Okay, what about
as
that?
As they do in other countries, and it works.
That sounds absolutely lovely, and if it does make people more productive in the workplace, then companies will offer it. That is ultimately what they want, is for their workers to be as productive and as happy as possible, because that's how they get the best results. So private companies would offer this if that turns out to be true. I have my suspicions that it is, that there are a lot of dads who would love to stay at home, but they would actually end up in the pub. We all know that there are people who would not take this particularly seriously. There are also women who would like them out of their hair. I think it's horses for courses.
Or do you mean there are dads who would take the 6 weeks and then go down the pub with it?
Yeah, of course they would. But I think ultimately it is down to the employer, and it's down to the individuals, and that actually one rule for all doesn't work. We've got this shared parental leave. 2% of fathers take that up. 2%.
Which is where you can basically swap out the wife's leave.
You can swap out. It isn't wanted, it's not demanded, and I don't think we should be mandating and telling people what to do. But we also need people to work and produce for their families.
But producing doesn't start and stop with a pay slip. And I think the reason that people don't take it is because, one, I think a lot of guys, a lot of dads don't know about it. Another thing is it then takes away from what the woman can take. So they have to make a decision as to who takes it. So that's why.
Not all women take a full year anyway, and it is within it's 50 weeks, so they can easily share the proposed 6 weeks here would be no problem out of that.
We're talking about
why
support.
are we trying to tell companies how to run themselves and how families how they work best?
But you're talking from a position where, not to be personal about it, but your family had a nanny.
I didn't have a nanny.
Your family growing up had a nanny.
Yeah, my mum had 5 kids and she had a nanny.
Right.
Fine. So what's that got to do with the fact I've got 3 kids and I don't?
I'm talking about support.
I know exactly what it's like to have children. I've got 3 of my own without a nanny. I had a premature baby who had to spend 3 months in hospital, and there was no allowance at all for maternal or paternal leave at that point.
Think that's terrible?
I was an
Do you not think that's terrible?
And, everyone always tells us the EU rights are so fantastic. In Belgium, women get 9 weeks maternity. It is absolutely ridiculous, but that is their system. We have got a better system here.
You had a tough time.
We can't. We cannot bankrupt our employers.
Okay, I understand.
Because people need to work.
Brad is in Essex. What do you think, Brad, of giving men more paternity leave?
Hiya. Just very quickly, when your guest on there said we need people to work and produce, and she sort of made a pause there for their families. I think what she meant was work and produce for the companies. But anyways, I was off sick for a couple of months just after my child was born. It had nothing to do with my child being born and such. It was just one of them things that just coincided. But me and my partner went on shared parental leave. We earned roughly the same amount, so it didn't make too much difference money-wise. But a lot of the times, like, because I work in the railway, their partner will earn less than them, the mother, or the person who doesn't work in the railway, so they would be the ones who would take the full maternity leave. But back to the point of 6 weeks on paternity leave, when you say leave it up to the companies, my company gave me 1 week. 1 week's full pay, and the second week is at statutory pay. That was £189. And at a time when you're at your most vulnerable, when you have a child, financially, mentally, everything, you're at your most vulnerable point then, to pay someone £189 and only give them 2 weeks off. I mean, as I said, we were fortunate in ways that, I was off and I could help around the house. Me and my partner shared duties, sleeping, feeding, so on and so forth. I'll go out for a couple of hours and just leave her to rest or vice versa. But, I know when we have our second child, we're not going to have the same privilege of me being off sick, but it ain't going to be the same.
Okay, I understand, Brett. Thank you. Let me just move on, but thank you so much. So maybe in Buckinghamshire, hi.
Hi there, Jeremy.
What do you think about this, giving dads more leave?
Yeah, no, 100% we should be given more leave. 100% should be given more leave.
Well, at whose cost, though? Because if the business can't function without that member of staff, there's no job to go back to.
Well, I'm sure the government might be, with all the cuts they're trying to make, should be able to, at least help these businesses. And you've got to think it's only 4 weeks extra on top of what we already have. But on to what the point I was trying to make. My partner has had a cesarean section. We've had our second child, and she's not able to lift my toddler, our first son, who's 2 years old, for 6 weeks. She's not allowed to drive. We have to get our son to nursery. And so now I basically had I forgot to say I'm also currently on paternity leave.
Sure.
I've had my paternity leave. I've then had to take an extra 2 weeks of annual leave on top of that to help, with taking our toddler to nursery, driving my wife and our new son around to, hospital appointments and whatnot. So there is that to take into account. It's
Marina's point, isn't it? That we forget how exhausting that period is straight after the birth of a child. The first, they always say the first 3 days are the best kept secret in the world that it's hell. But then the first 2 months are not much easier, Marina.
No, and it gets harder. It gets harder. So having someone there with you to do it, the father, who is just as much as a parent as you are, is so beneficial. And again, the bonding as well, and then just the shared understanding of what it means to raise a child. It's the way. Look, and I appreciate not every business is going to be able to survive this, right? If you're a small business and you lose one of your key members of staff, I understand.
But that's the key point for you,
right? But I'm just. But I'm also.
It is, because then that family has lost that income. And congratulations on your new arrival. I think that is delightful news and
well done.
Joyful. So I hope that you can get through it. But of course, as you say, you've taken 2 weeks holiday, annual leave.
No, he's taking his leave.
Oh, right.
But that's absolutely, I think, what people should do, that you use what you can to get through what is an extraordinarily stressful and exhausting period.
But that's not, is it paid, your holiday, so maybe, or what?
It is. My holiday is paid, but can I also just make another point as well? I mean, it's interesting you say that's what people should do, but then you think that I may need that time off further down the line in the year when to take, to help with childcare. But also secondary as well, on a maternal care sort of situation. At 2 weeks after postpartum is when a woman has the biggest influx of hormones. And you've got to think that's when her partner would be going back to work. So you're thinking you're leaving this emotionally how do I say, unstable
Fragile
woman, and her partner's going back to work.
Yeah,
Both sleep-deprived parents. You're also thinking of like work productivity. I work I'm a brewer, by the way, so I work in a quite manual job. If I make a mistake, that's thousands of pounds worth of beer going down the drain. So
Okay.
I don't think that's,
Understood.
basically.
Let me move on, Samir, but thank you. Jude in Suffolk, hi.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hey.
Hello, everyone.
So what do you think? This would be a better deal for dads, but Annunziata's worried about the companies.
Well, from my experience and point of view, that I have a grandson and this little great-granddaughter of mine, she has benefited so much. They both have, the parents, my grandson and his wife, both have had their maternity leave and paternity leave, and the baby is now 1 year old.
Right.
She was 1 year old the beginning of June, so she's 1 year old a month ago. She was born a little bit premature. She was born underweight that she should have been. I think she was about a month earlier than had to be brought forward. So that involved the mummy having to constantly, almost 24-hour breastfeed to nourish.
Is it? But is it just? Sorry, June. Is it that your son-in-law has?
No, my grandson.
No, but I'm talking about your grandson's dad. Is that your son or your son-in-law? Yeah, I'm just wondering. Has it been a good thing for him to have the time off?
Definitely.
Brilliant.
It's so beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
So beneficial.
Thanks so much, Jude. Anna in Lincolnshire, hi.
Oh, hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
Hi.
What do you think of this? There's a lot of people saying it's good to have the time, but can businesses afford it?
It's laughable. It's laughable. It's right what they say. It's a nanny state. I've brought up 10 children from the 1960s.
Yep.
And my husband, he didn't get any time off. You didn't get any time off. I didn't get time off unless I paid full insurance. So I've been back to work after 2 weeks.
So, but who was looking after your kids when you were going back to work then?
Well, my husband, yes.
Oh, so your husband was at home?
Yeah, well, it was because he'd done the opposite shift, you see.
Oh, I see. Gosh, wow.
So,
you were busy.
In them days,
10 children.
In them days, you've done what you had to do.
Yep.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Nowadays, they want everything. Everything they want to.
It is interesting whether we've just changed. Marina, I had a call on my radio show a while back. A guy was, in the 60s, had his leg knocked off by a train. He said he didn't even think about claiming benefits.
No, I was married to my ex-husband for over 30 years. We had never claimed a benefit. We struggled and worked, and we always thought what we earned, that was what we had to live on. And
okay,
that was
Anna.
what we done.
There we are. Another world.
Just go back to that was a time when the social contract was intact.
Intact what?
Intact, as in you could work, you could have a one-parent family working, you could still aspire to and purchase a house.
And you could have a house, yeah. That's true. That was the difference. People actually owned houses when they were under the age of 50. Later, it's the papers and everything else.